These are 10 fantasy series that I'm the most excited to, and in some cases, a bit intimidated to start this year. Now, I've read my fair share of fantasy at this point, but there are still so many big, popular series that I have not gotten to yet. So in this video, I wanted to talk about some of the ones that I'm most excited to start this year, and some that I've been putting off reading for way too long. First up, the Bound and the Broken series by Ryan Cahill. Now, I just recently picked up the signed first edition of Book 1 of Blood and Fire, and that has me even more excited to dig into this series. I've heard that The Bound and the Broken has a very classic, epic fantasy type of feel, which is right up my alley. And I've also heard that it has a lot of really great, compelling characters. Another reason I'm really excited about the series is I have heard it compared to some of my other absolute favorite series, including The First Law, Stormlight Archive, and the Echoed Saga. So if it's similar to those series, I think it's a pretty safe bet that I'm going to enjoy it. Next is the Drowning Empire Trilogy by Andrea Stewart. Alright, so I have heard good things about this series, and it seems like it has a really cool premise, but I would be lying if I said the biggest reason I wasn't super excited to start it this year is because of how beautiful these broken binding editions are. Now, a really cool lady on Book Talk hooked me up with these two versions, and the third one will be coming soon, before I got a broken binding membership. And I just can't get over how nice these copies are. Honestly, I have to stop and look at them basically every single time I walk past the bookshelf. Now, beyond how beautiful these books look, I've also heard that it has a unique magic system, a lot of political intrigue, and an interesting setting. So all of that should add up to a series I really enjoy. But yeah, it gets a lot of points for how gorgeous these two books look, let's be real. And I'm sure the third one looks just as good. We'll find out soon. Next up is Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn by Tad Williams. Now, since I got into Book Talk and BookTube, I have had this series recommended to me at least 10 times, and I can officially say I do not need any more convincing. I am on board the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn train. Definitely going to read it this year. Now, from what I can gather, Tad Williams is regarded as a master of this genre, and from what I hear, this series has vivid world building and complex character arcs, and just really beautiful writing. Honestly, I'm a bit ashamed that I haven't read this series yet, but I'm definitely planning to fix that this year. Next, Malazan, Book of the Fallen by Steven Erikson. So Malazan is one of those series that I kind of feel like I have to read just if I want to keep my street cred as a fantasy nerd. And obviously, it is regarded as a classic series. It's also famously complex. So it's definitely one of the ones that I'm intimidated to start, but I am excited. I'm planning to start Gardens of the Moon as soon as I finish Wheel of Time. I'm on book 12 right now. It just doesn't seem like the best idea to try reading both of those series at once. So looking forward to that. It'll be a couple months and then I'll dig in. Now, before I continue, just wanted to mention, if you've read any of these series, let me know what you think and let me know if there's any of them in particular that I really need to move up the list. Next, the Powder Mage Trilogy by Brian McClellan. So I've been hearing good things about this series for years at this point, and I've been putting off reading it myself for way too long. So recently I pulled the trigger and bought book 1 just so I would not have any more excuses to not read it. From what I hear, the Powder Mage Trilogy is super unique and fast-paced with a fleshed-out magic system, and it'll also be cool to dig into the flintlock fantasy genre, as I really have not read much or any of that. Next is the Empire of the Vampire series by Jay Kristoff. So Empire of the Vampire, which I have not bought a copy of book 1 yet, but I will soon. It's another series I've had recommended to me a ton since I got on Book Talk in particular. And from what I can tell, Jay Kristoff's fans are really ride or die, super hardcore fans. And whenever a fan base is that passionate about an author or a series, that's just a major green flag in my eyes. So this is apparently an atmospheric, dark gothic kind of series with a unique plot structure and a lot of brutal action. So that all sounds good. And I also think that the whole vampire thing can be really badass if it's done right. And by all accounts, Jay Kristoff definitely did it right with this series. So I'm excited, need to buy a copy soon. Next, the Empire of the Wolf series by Richard Swan. Now, I don't know a ton about this series. I have not bought book 1 yet either. But I've been hearing that Richard Swan is an excellent author for years at this point, and I think that this is a good series to start with, but please let me know if I'm wrong about that. So I've heard that Empire of the Wolf has a really complex kind of character study-like main character, which sounds cool. I've also heard it has a great historical setting and a ton of political intrigue. So all of that, if it's true, sounds like a really fun series to me. Next, the Songs of Chaos series by Michael R. Miller. So the next time I'm in the mood for a fun Dragon Rider type of series, Songs of Chaos, definitely at the top of my list. Now this book, Ascendant, has been on my TBR for a while, but recently a very cool guy on Book Talk named Justin, there are a lot of awesome people on Book Talk, by the way, he sent me a copy of it. So that moved it up my list, prompted me to look more into the series, and I found a lot of encouraging stuff. So it seems like this is more of a cozy, heartwarming, fun-filled kind of series, which will provide a really nice contrast to a lot of the really dark fantasy series that I've got on this list and we'll be reading this year. And it just seems like a really fun series all around. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. I think it's going to be a good read. Next is the Broken Empire Trilogy by Mark Lawrence. So Mark Lawrence is another legendary fantasy author who I somehow have not read anything by, and I definitely need to remedy that in 2026. Based on what I hear, his writing style is really in a league of its own with just vividly beautiful prose, and it's just really unique all around, so I'm really excited for that. Honestly, everything that I can find about the Broken Empire series makes it seem really appealing to me, right up my alley, from the anti-hero protagonist to the fast-paced plot, to the really cool setting that is apparently both medieval and post-apocalyptic. Honestly, hearing all that, I just have no doubt that I'm really going to love the series when I start it, which will be later this year for sure. Finally, the Kindred's Curse Trilogy by Penn Cole. Alright, and to wrap up, I had to throw some romantasy in the mix. I bought this book, Spark of the Everflame, on a whim, based on the recommendation of a friend, and because honestly I like the sprayed edges. I'm a sucker for sprayed edges. But then it sat on my shelf for a while, but I'm going to finally get around to reading it at some point this year. Based on my research, this series has a very strong enemies to lovers plot. It also has immersive world building and political intrigue and a relatable main character, so that all sounds like good stuff. Ultimately, it just comes down to when I'm going to be in the mood for some romantasy. So next time I'm feeling romantic, this one is probably going to be my go-to because I've heard good things. I've also heard it gets better and better as it goes. So I'm looking forward to this series. Might be later in the year, but I will get around. Those are my 10 fantasy series that I'm most excited to read this year. Please drop a comment. Let me know what you're most excited to read in 2026, or if you've read any of these series, let me know what you thought. Would love to hear from you. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, especially if you made it to this point in the video. And I would appreciate it even more if you could like the video and subscribe to my channel. Anyway, that's all I got. Happy reading and have a great rest of your day.